Turns out I'm schizophrenic. Who TF knew a? Obligatory I'm the patient. I thought for years that I was just continually getting more and more out of shape. Despite my best efforts, nothing helped. I would just hit this wall and couldn't keep going. Eventually I couldn't walk from my driveway to my house without needing a break to breathe. Turns out shortness of breath isn't just something to wave away, it's also something I wish doctors had taken seriously. In the span of 2 weeks, I went from seeing a local clinic PA to being admitted to the ICU. My doctor told my husband he had no idea how I was still alive, nevertheless functioning. This was me with my heart problems. I literally thought I was just lazy and out of shape, but never improved despite me trying to work out more. Turns out I had literally been in heart failure my entire life. It eventually quickly tanked to the point I needed a transplant. Now I feel like a freaking superhuman because I can exercise without feeling like I'm dying. I don't need a transplant. But over a period of 8 months or so, I went from being fairly out of shape, but working on it and going to the gym several times a week, to being basically unable to stand up without feeling like I was going to pass out. My doctor was treating me for asthma for 6 months until I got a chest x-ray and then an MRI and they found fluid on my lungs. I was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy in early February and I still can't believe how much better I feel now I'm on the right medications. Was on urology rotation in medical school when a 20-something-year-old male presented with the complaint that one of his nuts was too small and he wanted them to be equal because it was embarrassing. One testicle was normal, the too small one, while the other was the size of a grapefruit. Unfortunately the cancer had metastasized. Not sure how he did long term as I rotated off the service after he had surgery. A guy was in a chat that was primarily woman based and we diagnosed his testicle cancer. He wasn't that concerned and was going to talk to his doctor in a couple of months because he feels this lump and we told him no. He needs to go in tomorrow. He did need to get his ball removed and was thankful that we helped him. And I told him that if he had been willing to share his ID for recovery letters and gifts I would have sent some pens for him to write with. Uniballs. Of course. As a patient, I went in for a standard sleep study because I was always exhausted. Doctor asked me afterwards if I would consider signing a release for him to write a paper on me. Apparently I moved my legs over 9,000 in the course of the night. Apparently it was RLS. I wasn't realizing I had. My wife never even told me I did it and I had no idea. She casually agreed after I told her what the doc said. I barely met the recs for moderate sleep apnea where they will recipe a machine. God, I love that thing. I sleep so much better with it. Wiffy on the other hand uses hers and sleeps with her mouth open. So annoying to listen to the air hiss out all night. What's RLS? Rowdy legs syndrome? Restless leg syndrome. Lol. Except when it's over 9,000. Then it's rowdy leg syndrome. I had a root canal needed in a molar. I went in so he could prep it for the next step. But 2 hours in and he had to call it for the day. So by the 4th 2-hour visit, when it was finally done, I was sick of seeing my dentist. Almost a year later I'm back at the dentist. And he turns to his assistant and says this is the one with that root canal. I'm a legend. Apparently. Not a doctor, but when I was maybe 14 or 13 I remember describing to my primary how during my periods I would pass out from the pain, couldn't move or I would get sick, and told her a story about how I went on a trip to Italy and sometime in the middle of the flight became wildly sick to the point of terrifying the poor flight attendants. I'm so sorry flight attendants. Bye. Filling 4 puke bags. Crawling to the back of the plane clutching my stomach. Finding the doors locked attempting to use the first class bathrooms so I could finish being sick. When denied entry just lay down in the aisle waiting for sweet death to take me. It did not. Death has terrible customer service and then passed out when we exited the plane. But periods are supposed to be painful, right? The doctor was like, honey, you're supposed to experience some discomfort not being capacitated anyway. She put me on birth control and I've never been happier. I'm more disturbed they wouldn't let a 13-year-old girl clearly suffering from some kind of debilitating illness go into first class to use their restroom. That's absolutely cruel. Obligatory. I'm not a doctor. But I have celiac disease and am in the process of getting a Hashimoto's hyperthyroidism diagnosis. I was the abnormal patient when I was a little kid. Because not only did I get monthly bladder infections, apparently I had to use a catheter for a while, but I don't remember that at all. My doctor was confused why I always had extreme gas, joint pain, and weekly headaches at the ripe old age of 6. Turns out it was just me slowly dying because I ate a lot of wheat bread with celiac disease. Close bracket. Celiac is a nightmare. I was 17 when I was diagnosed. Symptoms can come on super fast too. I think I dropped something like 7 to 10 pounds, which on my frame was pretty significant, and that's what got me into the doctor's office first. This happened to me. I woke up with a period so heavy the bed was soaked. Stood up and it just poured out of me. Clots the size of my palm. Overwhelmed, I did what any woman would do if they could and phoned my mum to come over and comfort me and help me clean up the mess. At this point I was still thinking This is a strangely heavy period, and I was more worried about how my landlord would react to the carpet. I then fainted. Woke up. Fainted again. Phoned mum to cry about my stupid period making me miss work. My parents called an ambulance that arrived to the house first and rushed me to hospital. Not period. Massive internal hemorrhage in the womb. I had a guy that said every morning he would eat a handful of nickels. He said everybody in his family did it. I guess when people say change comes from within, this is how it comes to be within. I like you. I'm a therapist and a couple came in and were fighting because they didn't want to have sex. I told them they didn't have to. They were fairly confused and thought I was lying to them. Now they have 3 kids. I was a patient, but mine was kind of backwards of the whole thing. I feel like it's close enough to fit. When I lie down on my back, my feet turn out lay completely flat. They've always done this. My bones in my legs are twisted and that's the most comfortable position for them. This was the day after I broke my pelvis and I was going to the doctors to see what the damage was. The doctor didn't know about my feet, so he had this terrified look on his face when he saw me and headed back out.